Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to be talking about the which language debate. So this is a debate that's had a long-standing history in ESL, and it basically asks which language should we allow students to use in the language learning classroom. So there's a long-standing tradition to rebuke students for using their first language in the ESL classroom. However, recent research shows that students who have freedom of language choice actually develop their English skills a lot faster than English-only peers. So students are often encouraged to speak and write in English alone when learning English as a second language due to the assessments and policies which push standardized English, often at the cost of minority languages. This demand creates a deficient view of language learning stages, including the necessity of code switching, where language learners integrate first and second languages as part of the learning process. Governments and parents are often presented with English only in ESL due to the belief that early exposure to English language makes it easier to learn. This language myth is debunked by Professor Andy Kirkpatrick of Griffith University in Australia, who states that adults are very good language learners and that age is not necessarily relevant. Governments may also push English learning from an early age in an effort to ensure that students sound like native speakers of English and have access to global opportunities. However, despite the economic, societal, and often technological pressures to become English only, there are many benefits of encouraging bilingualism, including academic achievement, problem solving, and cross-cultural communication. So despite language policies and societal perceptions that agree on English only from a young age, there is research that encourages language teachers to allow students to use their first language in the English learning classroom. For example, Dang Ling Fu, in a 2008 discussion on bilingualism in Chinese immigrants in New York, shows that students need to speak and write fluently in their first language before they can begin speaking and writing in English. As language teachers, we need to be aware of the language policies of the context we are working within, as well as the consequences of not allowing students to use their dominant language and the benefits of encouraging them to embrace linguistic diversity. Some of the consequences of an English-only classroom are monolingualism, which is where a demand for students to pass the same standardized tests as their English native-speaking peers pushes students into monolinguistic status of English, which results in the rapid loss of their primary language and the potential inability to communicate with older generations of their family. Children may also end up being not fluent in either language, English or their mother tongue, as they don't have the linguistic resources to learn language. And in addition, minority languages may die out because English becomes essential for personal and everyday communication. So what becomes apparent is the necessity to balance opportunities for educational success, economic advancement, and sense of self with the need to communicate with one's immediate or extended family and neighbours. I believe that this can be best done by encouraging students to use their first language freely in the ESL classroom, embracing the view of code switching as necessary for transition and bilingualism. While there are many challenges in recognizing the importance of Language 1 in ESL, including how do we assess the speaking, reading, and writing of a language that we don't understand as teachers, there are also many benefits to encourage the freedom of language use in TESOL. For one, students develop English skills at a much faster rate than those who are only allowed to compose in English. 2, students understand the nature of language usage as they develop knowledge of what language they need for content, context, and purpose, as well as how they want to express themselves as writers. And 3, students' freedom in language usage means they have less fear of code switching and are more likely to engage in opportunities to practice using language in meaningful contexts. In addition, when students and teachers focus on the deep structure of the writing and when we teachers value the students' language choices and when students perceive our emphasis is truly on what they mean rather than what they say it, the students will attend to the content and ideas in their writing rather than attending solely to correct usage of new vocabulary they are learning. So these benefits are not only for ESL students. Teachers can also benefit from promoting bilingual practices. Viewing code switching as a necessary transitional stage of language learning and promoting bilingualism will encourage teachers to accept students' diverse language choices and to recognize the importance of word choice and cultural nuances in deciphering meaning. Each of these positives encourage and challenge TESOL practitioners to reflect on the role the student's first language can play in the ESL classroom. They recognise that students' linguistic growth in English is excelled through the freedom of being able to use Language 1 in ESL, and how we as teachers can actively develop a commitment to accept, affirm, and engage in language diversity. I believe that accepting students' use of Language 1 in ESL is an important aspect of TESOL practice, as it foregrounds intercultural communication and will lead to the creation of a classroom that is engaged and aware of the interaction between language, individual, and culture. Thank you very much.